In 1968, one Wall Street firm removed a single paragraph from its new client welcome packet, and the compounding mechanism that paragraph described has never appeared in a standard brokerage disclosure since. No one has ever officially explained why. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly what that paragraph cost you and who collected every dollar of it. The year is 1968. The stock market is recovering from a turbulent decade. Most Americans who own stocks own them through a broker, a human being who places trades, collects a commission, and manages the relationship. Brokerage commissions at that time averaged between 1 and 2% of every transaction, every buy, every sell, every reinvested dividend. You paid. The broker got paid. And the system worked precisely because most investors didn't know there was another way. The other way had a name. It was quiet, unglamorous, and it had existed in scattered form since AT&T quietly piloted it in 1964. It was called a dividend reinvestment plan. Here is what that means. When a company pays you a dividend, those quarterly cash payments for owning their stock, a dividend reinvestment plan automatically takes that money and buys you more shares. No brokerage commission, sometimes at a 3 to 5% discount to the market price. Directly through the company itself, cutting the broker entirely out of the loop. And here is the number that matters. A study published in 2003 by Ibbotson Associates found that between 1926 and 2002, dividends and their reinvestment accounted for 97% of the total cumulative return of the S&P 500. 97%. Not growth, not clever trading, not timing the market. Reinvested dividends. The boring, automatic, commission-free mechanism that nobody on a brokerage floor was ever incentivized to explain to you. Now ask yourself why the welcome packet had that paragraph removed. The official story is simple. Brokerages didn't advertise these plans because they were complicated to administer. Direct enrollment through companies varied by company. There was no single platform. Clients wanted simplicity. The broker was the simplicity. There's a version of that story that is technically true, but consider what happened next. In 1986, the number of companies offering direct enrollment had grown to over 1,000. By 1993, it was nearly 1,500. Companies like Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, they were running these programs quietly, publishing them in annual report footnotes, enrolling anyone who wrote a letter and asked. You had to write a letter and ask. No broker called you, no pamphlet appeared, the plans existed. The information was legal to share, and somehow almost nobody heard about them. In 1975, Congress passed the Securities Act's amendments which eliminated fixed brokerage commissions. For the first time, brokerages could compete on price. Discount brokerages emerged. Commissions dropped. And for one brief window, the financial industry faced real pressure to justify its role. That same year, in the same regulatory climate, the SEC received a formal proposal to require brokerages to inform clients about direct enrollment options at the point of account opening. The proposal was studied. A working group was formed. It met through 1976 and into 1977. The recommendation was never implemented. What came out of those meetings instead was a framework that formalized the broker as the default intermediary for all dividend transactions. If you didn't specifically opt out, your dividends were routed through the brokerage account. The brokerage held the shares in street name, their name, not yours, which meant the reinvestment right technically belonged to them. You owned the stock. They held the title. And the dividend reinvestment that would have compounded silently in your name for 30 years was replaced, by default, with cash sitting idle in an account, available for your next trade, for which they would collect a fee. This is the structure that has governed American retail investing for 50 years, and almost no one outside a footnote has ever described it that way. Think about what this meant in practice. An investor who put $10,000 into Coca-Cola in 1980 and never reinvested dividends would have roughly $90,000 today from price appreciation alone. The same investor who found the footnote, who wrote the letter, who enrolled in the direct plan would have over $600,000. That gap is not speculation. The math is public record. The people who closed that gap were not financial geniuses. They were people who happened to find out the mechanism existed, and the mechanism existed the whole time. Every year you didn't know, someone else collected the difference. The commissions, the management fees on cash sitting uninvested, the float on idle dividends, the interest on margin accounts open to recapture the returns you were never shown how to keep. The silence had an architecture, and that architecture had beneficiaries. None of them were you, so here is what I need you to sit with. The plan existed in 1964. The data was clear by 1980. The enrollment letter was 1 page long, and any shareholder in America was legally entitled to send it. What would your portfolio look like today if someone had handed you that letter the day you opened your first account? And who decided they wouldn't?